Hey guys, this is Rian with Momma on Mission. If you're new here, I am a Christ-following wife and a book-loving homeschool mom to 3 boys. So subscribe and hit that notification bell if you would like to see all things homeschool, book, biblical womanhood related, and I'd love to have you. So today I'm joining in a collaboration with Leilani over at Living with Eve, and this is the things homeschool moms stress about and why they shouldn't collaboration. So be sure to check out that playlist down below, and also check out Leilani's channel. She is a really fun mom. She puts out some funny videos that us homeschool moms can definitely relate to, but she also has some very good practical advice as well. So I decided to pick 3 things that I feel like are the most common stressors among homeschool moms, or at least they were for me, and why I decided to no longer let these things stress me out, and kind of how I've battled that. I am no expert by any means, but this is just from my experience. So the first thing that I find a lot of moms stress about, which is really unnecessary, is picking the right curriculum. I realize this is a big deal. I realize that curriculum can be expensive, although I choose not to buy really expensive stuff because I like to save money, so I buy used. If you would like to hear about that, leave a message in the comments. But I understand it's a big commitment. I understand that you don't want to be jumping around, multiple times in a year from one curriculum to the next. I understand that I understand why there is stress in this. But I would just really like to remind you that the curriculum you choose is simply a tool. You are still the parent. You are still the teacher. You're still the one who knows your kids, who will do what it takes to teach your kids and to make sure that they're learning. And so if a curriculum isn't perfect for you, which really there's no perfect curriculum, but if it's not 100% what you're wanting, that's not the end of the world. And you can do lots of things to fix that. You can just tweak it. I do a lot of tweaking with our curriculum. I don't think there's any one curriculum that I use 100% the way that they instruct you to use it. Whether that be it takes too long to do it their way, or I just find it works better another way, or my kiddo responds better a different way. So don't ever be afraid to tweak things. And then if something is just terrible and you hate it and you can't figure out a way to tweak it to make it better, there's nothing wrong with trying something new. I wouldn't recommend doing this several times in a year or even doing it every year. I know some moms are cool with that. I do think there is value in consistency. But if something is just a total no-go, don't make yourself miserable. Don't make your kiddos miserable. But by and large, don't let the curriculum judge whether you are a success or a failure, because it doesn't deserve that much power. It's simply a tool that you are using. So stop stressing about getting the right curriculum, because there's so many out there, and you're going to like some better than others, and some you're going to like certain things of it, and then another one you're going to like different things about it. And like, we've got to get rid of the fear of missing out thing, because I know new curriculums come and go, and when you hear everyone talking about them, you get really interested and really excited to try it. And I mean, if you just sit there and follow the trends over and over and over, that's going to make for a very confusing and a very exhausting homeschool experience, in my opinion. So the second thing I would encourage you to stop stressing over is the word average, which seems kind of weird. But we get really bad into this, like wanting our kids to be the best at everything. At least that's what I kind of struggle with, because I was that kid. I only wanted to try something if I knew I was going to be the best person at it. And so therefore there were a lot of things that I didn't try growing up because I knew that I wasn't going to be the best. So I just didn't want to bother with it. And I see now that that's a really ugly trait to have, and I don't want to push that onto my kids. We've got to stop obsessing over if our kid is on track or not. And I'm not saying like don't pay attention to that at all, because I realize that maybe you're sending your kids back to public school eventually, and you want to make sure that they're kind of not way behind on certain subjects. And I understand that you want to make sure that you're getting things taught that need to be taught. So I'm not saying never pay attention to this, but your kid's not going to be the best at everything. There's going to be struggles in one subject or another, or multiple subjects, and that's okay. But my pediatrician always said when my kids were, well, he still says it, but especially when they were kind of in that baby toddler stage, and he'd pull up their growth charts, and I would see kind of like a little dip or maybe a spike in their growth or something. And he would always say, as long as they're progressing, they're fine. And I feel like that kind of plays a part here. As long as you can see growth in your child, it's okay if they're, not reading by the end of kindergarten. It's okay if they're not doing multiplication well in 3rd grade, or whatever I don't even know what the different milestones are supposed to be. But as long as you're seeing progress, what more can you ask for? And really, this is part of why we homeschool. We want to help them excel in the areas that they're strong in. And we want to be able to walk beside them and help them along in the areas that they're weak in, and not freak out that, oh my goodness, they're not as good as, this person who is also a homeschooler, or they're not as good as my niece who's also in kindergarten, and, whatever. We've got to stop that comparison. We've got to stop that wanting our kids to be average or with everyone else on everything. They're not going to be. They're going to be excellent and way better at some stuff than other kids, and they're going to be maybe a little behind on other things, and that's okay. As long as they are growing and learning, you're doing your job. And so my third and final thing that I would say us moms really like to stress about and shouldn't, and this one has been the hardest one for me to overcome personally, is other people. Especially, when you put yourself out there on YouTube or any sort of social media, you get a lot of people's opinions, and sometimes they're nice about it and sometimes they're not, and that's okay. And sometimes I get a lot of like the prodding questions that are actually kind of rude, but they don't really mean it that way. Because one thing I've learned is that people are very critical of things they don't understand. And so if someone doesn't understand your choice to homeschool, they're bound to be more critical of you. And you just have to let that happen. You just have to let them deal with that. You can't put that weight on your shoulders. Because, at the end of the day, you will answer to God for what you have done with your children, for how you have shepherded them, how you have loved them and taught them his ways. And, whether that's homeschooling or not, you're responsible to God for your children. You're not responsible to God for what everyone thought of you. And now I'm not saying be rude, and I'm not saying, tell these people off. I'm just saying don't let other people become a stumbling block to you. And, love your children enough to not let that distraction hinder you from giving them what they need. And what I mean by that is sometimes we do things to kind of appease other people when really it's not something our kids need or that we need. We're just simply doing it for someone else. An example I have is, and this actually ended up working in my favor. However, I think I've shared this before, that as soon as my kiddo was in preschool and we kind of had an idea we were going to be homeschooling, as kindergarten was getting closer and closer, I was freaking out that we were not in a co-op, because everyone who wasn't a homeschool around me had given me the, well, what are you going to do for socialization question. And I mean, it was kind of for us too. I was maybe a little bit worried about my kid being a socially awkward weirdo, but I was already one, and so I was just like, well, if they do become one, oh well. But I was freaking out a month before, like July before his kindergarten year, that we weren't in a co-op. And I was like, what are we going to do? We have to be in a co-op. We have to. And it's like, we would have been fine if he didn't join a co-op the first year of homeschooling. Which, like I said, thankfully this turned out in our favor. We're still a part of the same co-op 4 years later, 5 years later, something like that. And we love those people. So that's not maybe the best example, but I'm just saying, like, You know, if so-and-so says, oh, well, what are you going to do for science? And, you know, they have to know this, this, and this, this, and this. How are you going to teach them that? Maybe they don't need to learn that their very first year of school, and you don't have to go out and buy an extra piece of curriculum just to quiet that person. Like, just really focus on you and your family and what they need, and to cater to that, and let the naysayers be naysayers. It's all right. You know, and explain to them, you know, as much as you feel like you need to. There's certain people that, you know, approach me about homeschooling, and I can tell they're just kind of trolls and I just kind of give them sweet, short answers and move on with my day. And then there's some people who are just legitimately curious, and I will talk to them all day long. Even if they don't understand why I do the things I do. You know, each person you just have to treat differently. But anyway, those are the things I would say to not stress about. Don't stress about your curriculum. Stop stressing about if your kid's behind or on par or excelled or whatever, and stop stressing out about other people. Like, you do you, right? So I thank you so much for watching. Again, please check out that playlist. Please check out Leilani's channel, and please subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.